Hey Buns, today we need to talk about the Endwalker patches because, look, this is a video that I wanted to make quite some time ago, but I myself actually got really burnt out for the first time in the entire time I've been playing these games, which is since 2015, since Heaven's Ward. I've been an active player ever since then, and it was the first time that I actually felt like I really needed to step away and take a breather, and I did. I did just that, because although I had thought about a lot of these things before, I was thinking, well, am I just being burnout? Am I being unfairly negative? Am I being a hater? So I took that break and I came back feeling refreshed and revitalized and in love with the game again, and I'm having fun again. I'm, working on my glams, I'm raiding, I'm doing the hunt trains, I've got my bluebird bow, which I love, and I can't wait to get the bunny staff. These are amazing. So looking forward to Dawn Trail, looking forward to the Fan Fest in London, and overall, back in love with this game that means so much to me and is really home for me. But with all that said, looking back now with a much more clear mind, I think, I definitely feel that the concerns that I had before, some of them definitely had real merit. And I think it's not a coincidence that it's not just me, but almost everyone I know seems to be burnt out with FFXIV right now and just not logging into the game or raid logging or just completely disinterested and feeling like, well, there's so little pressure to log in and I could either log in now or maybe next year or maybe in 5 years, And so, yes, there's still one more patch, but we know exactly what is going to be in it because for better or for worse, this has been very, very predictable too. And I'm seeing social groups sort of dissolve and it sucks. I'm concerned about the state of the MMO. And although I'm not doomsaying, okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not out here like, oh, well, this is the end of FFXIV. It's all over. It's ruined. No, I'm not saying that, okay? But what I am saying is that there are concerning signs, and I'm seeing less engagement from everyone I personally know. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just my group of people that I know. So I went on Twitter and I asked the question to do a vibe check of the community. Be honest. How do you feel about the Endwalker patches? And I was honestly shocked by the number of people that just felt like it's underwhelming, it's lackluster, it's just not that interesting. These are not people who are saying, it's terrible, I hate it, it sucks. That's not really what I'm hearing that much. What I'm hearing is, it's mid. It's fine. I don't really care that much. I'm hearing apathy. I'm hearing like, it's okay. And honestly, that's not gonna cut it. Like, if we want to keep people playing this game long term and have people to play with, I feel like the game is gonna have to find ways to get more people excited about it and get more people happy, looking forward to log in. I can't wait to log in and play FXIV because, especially this year, I think what we're starting to see is that there are a ton of really quality games coming out, and they are, for better or worse, in competition for your time. And it's wonderful that FXIV does not, pressure you so much to log in. It has never done that. But in the past expansions, we have, although the game hasn't been pressuring you too much to log in, there have been exciting things that we could all log in together to do, that people had reasons to do. Yes, it is normal for, after a patch has been out for a while, people to get burnt out and bored. It's normal for, at the end of an expansion's life cycle, for people to get, well, I'll just go do other stuff. That's okay. That always happens. But what I'm seeing is this happening soon after, like a week after a major patch comes out, or like I started to see this phenomenon after the first major patch of the whole expansion, 0.1 patch, 0.2 patch, 0.3 patch. This should not be as big of a phenomenon as it is so early on in the life cycle of the expansion. And so I'm worried. And we're going to talk about all the contributing factors. And if you're having a good time, good for you. I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't be having fun. If you're having fun, great, keep at it. But this is an MMO, right? And we want people to be excited to log in. If they're not, then it's just not as good. It's not a single player game, even though lately it feels like they are trying to turn it into that. One thing I keep hearing from people is that, oh, I'm burnt out. But I don't think that's even the right word, because with burnout, you think normally that's when you do something so much, so often, every day, so hard and so long that you just get sick of it and you can't think about it. You don't want to think about it anymore. You're tired of it. And it's such a relief to stop. But this isn't really what I'm seeing with people. If these are people that want to do something, it's more like how burnout is actually thought of in the car world, where you just sit there, you stay put and you're spinning the wheels, but you're not going anywhere. Get in the car, there's a lot of smoke. This car could be fun to drive at some point, but that point is not right now because you are stationary. Now, one thing that I'm really tired of hearing, and I think a lot of us are at this point just sick of hearing, is, well, Yoshi P says that you can just go play other games. If you're not happy with them, just go play other... Well, that's what I've been doing, okay? I played other games for 6 months. Yes, I'm glad I can play other games. I'm glad that FFXIV doesn't pressure me to the extent that World of Warcraft used to. But I think that these are two ends of the spectrum. World of Warcraft being on the extreme end of, oh my god, I have to be on this treadmill and I have to keep up or I'm going to fall behind and it sucks. That's a way to burn out quickly. And now FFXIV is so far and going further in the other end of the spectrum of, oh, there's so little pressure on me that I could either do this today or I could do it next year. You know, like this also has a similar effect of just having people not in the game. They're just not playing the game, ultimately. That's the end result. And this damages social groups. It damages the health of the game and the longevity of the game, because a lot of times people will go play other games and they just won't come back. Seeing FFXIV go down this path where people feel less and less motivated or interested or incentivized at all to log in at end game, I think that it's really helpful to listen. I cannot believe I'm saying to Ian Hazakos. Just hear it. I stand by this because he does explain really well why it is important to incentivize players somewhat to play the game that you're making. And this is from the interview that Mike from Preach Gaming had with Ian at Blizzard HQ about 6 months ago. And this particular part of the interview really stood out to me because, to me, I heard FFXIV all over this.
You know, our goal is never habit in the sense of like you have to log in when you don't want to. Our goal is for you to want to log in. Our goal is for you to want to play World of Warcraft and to look forward to getting back into the game, to have something you want to complete, something you want to chase. And if you're not wanting it, then getting you to do it despite that isn't a victory for us. It's just burning people out. And so I think giving people the freedom to feel like they can take a step away, do something in real life, play another game for a while without falling behind is valuable. I think the one thing that we do worry about when it comes to, you know, sort of the raid logging phenomenon or people taking breaks is the social nature of the game, is, you know, sort of the critical mass of keeping a group together. If the person who is really excited to log in to do things with their guildmates logs in and no one from their guild is online because of whatever reason, and then they just log back off kind of disappointed because they were hoping to play with friends but their friends weren't around, that can be an issue. And I think that's something, you know, going back to WoD, to Warlords of Draenor, that was probably the peak of the raid logging era, where really there was like, other than checking your garrison, if it wasn't raid night, there was nothing to do. That felt like a step too far toward that end of the spectrum.
We joked around whenever Endwalker came out that, oh, Island Sanctuary, that's going to be the garrison of Final Fantasy XIV. And I thought we were kidding, but we weren't. It is actually, it feels a lot like the garrison. This expansion reminds me a lot of Warlords of Draenor, which sucks because I quit World of Warcraft during Warlords of Draenor. Now, it's not as bad. It's not anywhere near as bad. But I'm sensing a lot of the same vibes of like loneliness and like I'm not even in an MMO anymore. One of the biggest reasons why Endwalker has felt pretty lonely and isolating in the same ways that Warlords of Draenor felt to me all those years ago is the lack of an exploration zone, the lack of anything like Bajra or Eureka or Zadnor. We just don't have that, and there's nothing added to the game that could even remotely replace that. And it's not even so much about Like, oh, well, I just love farming fates in Baja. I just love hunting down little items that has a tiny drop rate. And it's not really even so much about the specific things there was to do in Baja. It's about the vibe of Eureka and Baja. It's about being in a zone filled with tons of other players that reminds you that you're in an MMO. That there's a lot of people playing the same game as you, and it's really exciting, and we're all happy to be there for different reasons. Like, you might be in Baja because you're leveling, or because you're working on a relic, or because you're doing duels, or because you're collecting mounts, or because you're farming gil, or you're doing cluster farming. There's a ton of different reasons why all kinds of different people would meet in these places. And you might meet people that you wouldn't have known otherwise. You might meet people that were strangers to you before, but you have shared this common purpose, and then you meet more often, and that's how you make friends in the game. That's one of the beautiful things about an MMO. But with the content that they're releasing now, which is like solo stuff and small group stuff, you're usually going in there with people you know or alone. And it sucks because it's like, where else can you even show off your mount to other players in the game? Like, you can't do it in the city. Baja was the place to do that. It's the place where everyone is. It's the place that's happening that makes you feel like, oh, there's something cool going on and everybody else is doing it and I can't wait to be there with them. That's the heart and soul of an MMO. And without that, it just feels really, really empty, frankly. And I definitely feel like the lack of a place like that where everyone is, that feels like it's popping off, like this is the place to be, it might contribute to, or even be, a self-fulfilling prophecy where you get it into your head, well, I barely see anyone else, and so this game is dead, right? Of course that is going to be reinforced if you're not doing anything. You're not called to do anything where you can actually see tons of other players around. I've been finding myself happy to see lots of people standing around the Aetheryte. And that's about as far as it gets in me feeling like I'm in an MMO. And frankly, that's unacceptable. One of the reasons that we had those before, and we don't now, is because in the past, Eureka and Baja, these exploratory zones, they were tied in with the Relic Journey. And for whatever reason, not only did they choose to remove these zones from Endwalker completely, but they also removed the Relic Journey. There is no Relic Journey for Endwalker. You cannot say that turning in tombstones each time counts as a Relic Journey. So let me explain if you're new. In the past, in every other expansion of Final Fantasy XIV ever, the Relic has been a very special weapon that has been a journey for you to get. Now, usually you complete it in stages, each stage becoming increasingly more cool looking, shiny. It transforms over time. And with each stage, you need to go grind some materials. You need to go, I don't know, farm fates, maybe do some dungeon or whatever to get the materials you need to upgrade it to the next stage. And so it's this long process. It's meant to cover the entire expansion, and it really is casual content because at the very, very end of it, very end of the expansion, then you have a pretty good weapon. And it's a sparkly weapon, and it shows that you had dedication and you had patience. So it's a great way for a casual player who maybe doesn't want to raid to get a really cool weapon that they can be proud of, that shows they were committed to this. And it's something to be proud of for sure. It always has been. But this is the first expansion where I have not heard shit from anybody about their relics, because the relics are in the game. The relics are still in the game for Endwalker. But to upgrade your relic this time, just turn in tombstones. And it's not even that many. In fact, most people, you can log in, and if you hadn't been spending tombstones, you have enough. And that's it. It's literally a tombstone weapon. There's no cool, there's no process really to get it anywhere. There's no journey. They just removed that completely. Why? Why did they do this? I do not understand. We have tombstone weapons already. Why do we need another worse tombstone weapon? I am truly baffled by this decision by them to get rid of this thing that also served the very important purpose of keeping people engaged with the game a lot between patches. It's the thing that it gave you something to do between patches. For example, I think it was at the end of Stormblood where there was a big content drought, like a giant one. And maybe, I'm pretty sure it was End of Stormblood. And somebody had asked Yoshi P, what do we do? Waiting. It's such a long drought. What do we do? Waiting for the next expansion. And he said, oh, just get every relic weapon. And people were kind of mad at him at the time because it was kind of a cop-out answer, but it was a valid answer because getting each one was time-consuming. That's really what the purpose that it served in the past was to keep you busy waiting for the content. But without that, it's almost like they deliberately are now choosing to not have you play the game between the patches. This is the first expansion in all my years of playing FFXIV that I don't even know what my relic looks like. I don't know. And my friends who normally send me screenshots of, look, I just got the new relic for my job, and oh, I just got another relic. It's usually a thing we are excited to share because it's a big deal. It's like a big milestone every time that you get your relic and you upgrade it because it's hard to do. Nobody I know is even getting a relic. Nobody's even going after it now because it's not cool, because it's easy to get. It has no value because it's just anyone can get it. So what does it mean? What does it say? Why would they remove this? It just feels like laziness, frankly. It feels like maybe they didn't even want to put it at all, but they felt like they had to, and they put the lowest amount of effort into it as possible. They really phoned it in, and frankly, it's shameful because this is not what the relic is meant to be. It is meant to be something to keep you busy for a little longer, but it also feels like it's a deliberate choice that they do not want people even logging in that much. They just don't want you to feel like you need to log in at all. It's crazy. Now, the next thing that it pains me to say, because I am an MSQ Andy. I live for the main story quest of FXIV, and that will never change. But I have never been more disappointed with the main story quest than I have in this expansion's patches. Now, I loved 6.0. I thought it was great. But the patches have definitely left a lot to be desired. And I was really patient and forgiving for the first couple of major patches. I thought, well, they're setting up for something else and we're just getting ready to pivot, and there's meant to be a bit of a lull between what's going into the next thing and blah, 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 blah. But looking back, I feel like I was just kind of making excuses. And I don't want to say that all of the story and every moment in the whole story was terrible. No, because there were good moments. There was a lot of really nice moments. Like the slice of life moments I thought were some of the better parts. Especially Estinian doing the push-ups. That was really nice. But I feel like it is shameful and obvious that they, instead of making the trial series side series like we have had with Sorrow of Wirlit or Four Lords in the past, they instead chose to make it the main story quest. They made the trial series the main story quest. We don't have a trial series. We do not have a side series of story of the trial bosses because they have just put it right into the main story quest. So that's less content. Not only is it less story content overall for us, but it's way less interesting. Because as soon as we were aware that there were these archfiends at the very beginning of the expansion, we knew exactly what was going to happen. Some people are saying, oh, well, it's just because 6.0 big arc ended and then we got a new arc starting in Dawn Trail, and so this is just in between, so you can't expect anything good. That's honestly bullshit, because being constrained in time to tell the story usually means that it's going to be easier to tell a good story if you spend enough time really plotting that out and considering it. Like, that's one of the major reasons why I often say Shadowbringers was such a solid story expansion, because they needed to tell the entire story of a planet from beginning, middle, and end within the course of one expansion. So there's all these new people you meet, there's this huge climax, and they need to wrap it all up before you go. And this made it really satisfying as its own package. So sometimes constraining the story is really, really good because you can get all the juice in better. But it feels like they really took a lazy path, to be quite frank. And they decided, oh, well, won't it be so convenient for us to just do callbacks to huge story moments in FF4, try to recreate those, And a lot of times it felt forced, and it felt like we're just artificially trying to recreate this moment from FF4, and I found that to be very frustrating. And we can, instead of having a side story series like Sorrow of Wirlet, which I know that's a tough act to follow, we'll just make that the main story quest instead. That has sucked. The story has gotten so predictable that in the previous live letter, they even told us who the next boss was going to be because they know that we know. And they did it for the last one too. Usually it's like a big secret, like, ooh, we can't even tell you who the new trial boss is going to be because it's going to be this huge story moment. But that really hasn't happened this time. And it sucks. So, Sorrow of Wirlet was absolutely amazing. I cried at the end. That's the Shadowbringers trial story series. And honestly, it feels like they took a really easy way out with the main story quests for these patches. The better parts were slice of life stuff. Zero being a character who I like, and is generally pretty well received. And the moments getting to know and sort of chill out with the Scions has been some of the brighter points. So that gives me hope for Dawn Trail, because I think it's going to be more like that stuff. But God, it has felt stretched out and it's felt like a filler, and that has not been fun. That has not really been very engaging for me. Now, the next thing. I know, this is rough, man. The next thing. Island Sanctuary. I literally do not know a single person that is excited and happy with how Island Sanctuary turned out. In fact, even when it first came out, I remember everybody was kind of shocked that, like, because we thought, we're going to go there and it's going to be this relaxing island getaway vacation. And we get there and it's a fucking management sim, like, spreadsheet thing where you need to assign work schedules to all the little robots, and it's just like, what? The general reaction was, wait, we're here to work? This isn't what I expected at all. You're there by yourself. There's really no reason to go to someone else's island. Almost a garrison. Yeah, it's the garrison of FFXIV. Only, honestly, less fun than the garrison was. It's less interesting than the garrison. You level up for several hours, and then when you're done, you can fill out the spreadsheet for your workshop. And you can have that done in 15 minutes once a week. And then if you're really into it, that's as much time as it's really going to take. But there's really no reason to do it once you have the mounts and like outfits and stuff that you wanted. It doesn't affect the game at all. It really doesn't affect anything else. So there's no reason to go to anyone else's sanctuary. And probably the best thing that they did for it was add it so you could put outdoor furnishings there. So, I mean, that was okay, but that's kind of not what it was meant to do. Because we have housing. Not everyone does, so that's why this is good, but as replayable content, it's just not it. The Pandemonium raid story was better than the main story quest. There was a couple of weird champ raids here and there, but by and large, I've enjoyed it, and that's the thing I'm probably enjoying most in the game right now. I don't think it compares to Eden, but it's still solid and fine. It's good. It's good. We could talk about the 2-minute meta all day, but no, we're not going to do that right now. I don't even want to get into it right now because it's a whole can of worms, and it's not going away anytime soon. The Knee Deep Dungeon is okay. It's not great for leveling, unfortunately, which is one of the main reasons that people do Deep Dungeon over and over, for longevity. For replayability, you might notice a trend here where the replayability is not a thing. It also feels like they didn't add enough things that were fresh and new to Deep Dungeon, which is sad because Deep Dungeon, I feel like, is some of the best potential for content in the game that has replayability and longevity. And I really wanted them to add better, more involved progression system within Deep Dungeon. Like, I don't even know what. Make it more of a roguelite. I wish they would just be a little bit more creative with it. Because right now I just don't know anyone that's interested in it. Leveling up at it, your ether pool armor is really a pain in the ass, and it feels like it's not worth it because it doesn't really affect anything. The rewards aren't really there to incentivize people to do it too. But in terms of content that has come out in this expansion, I'd say Deep Dungeon is all right. Like, it's not that bad. It's one of the better ones. This is the most tragic case, though, Variant and Criterion, because the content is good. Everybody agrees the content is good. The fights are well designed. It's innovative. It's fresh. It's like, oh, you got to think about how you're going to pull the mobs around, and that has been a breath of fresh air, that they have tried to do something new and different. But it's like they take half measures with innovation. They're afraid to risk too much, change up the formula too much. It seems like they were terrified to add anything into Criterion, that like any kind of new item that you could get through it, anything that might screw up the strict itemization schedule that they have, where certain types of items drop from the alliance rate and then certain types of items drop from the dungeon, and it has to be the specific item level, and they don't want to change it at all. They don't want to give you anything that's going to drop anywhere else that's going to be different. And I think they're really crippling their game by not providing, if they're not going to do the gear rewards from this stuff, I don't know, like find something else to make people go do. I don't know, maybe related to a relic, but they chose to take that out of the game this time too. So there's just no reward. There's no reward that anyone cares about in Criterion. Yes, there's like this mount, but you can buy that with guild. So it kind of doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that you've cleared it. It doesn't mean much. It's a shame. In all my years of playing, I've never seen a brand new piece of content die so fast. Brand new content, and in less than a week, no one cared. In fact, I remember the day that Variant and Criterion stuff came out the first time, the Ass and Ass Savage, and I had, taken my time logging in that day, and when I logged in, I saw my friend had already got the Silky mount from the Variant dungeon, from clearing all 12 paths of the Variant without even really trying. And so they were actually done with Variant before I could even log in the same day that it came out. There's no reason to return. You can be done with it in a couple of hours. And that's frankly unacceptable in an MMO where you want people to be playing together. But I guess maybe they don't. Maybe they just don't want that anymore. I don't know. The PvP changes and addition of crystalline conflict is one of the more positive things that I think have happened in this expansion. But these series, Momstones rewards, the PvP rewards, that was meant to keep people engaged with the PvP long term, you can knock it all out in a week or two if you try. So people that do casual, that still pops fairly often. But if you've done casual, it can get kind of boring. Ranked is really where the fun is, in my opinion. And ranked players, they do this in the first couple of weeks and then they are gone. There's no further incentive to do it anymore after that. And so, anytime I complain about it, people just say, oh, well, if you're playing FXIV for the PvP, you're playing the wrong game. And I'm really tired of this defeatist attitude, frankly. There's also people who do not want the game to ask you to do more. Let me tell you something. You don't need the game to not have stuff in it for you to walk away when you're tired. You can just walk away when you're tired. Unfortunately, the FF14 community has developed a little bit of a reputation for not being able to take criticism at all. And this is really damaging to the game as well. We need to be able to discuss when things don't feel right, they don't feel as good as they used to be. And I almost feel like people want to say that they're burnt out because it's easier for others to accept than for them to say, the content this time wasn't fun enough for me. The content didn't make me want to play. The content wasn't something I was excited to do. It's almost like that in itself is a taboo for some people to say. And it's easier for them to accept, well, maybe it's on me. It's just I'm personally tired of the game. And I think in a lot of cases, maybe that's not true. Because I've never seen this many people claim to be burnt out. And I think it actually has a lot to do with the content more than people are willing to admit. And I'm tired of hearing people say, whenever we bring up these complaints or any kind of criticism about the game and why I want to be able to play it more, but I can't. I'm tired of hearing people say, well, we don't want this to be a game where it's just this huge grind where you need 30 hours a week to stay up to date. No one is saying that. Stop jumping to this huge extreme conclusion. I hate that people keep doing this. It's driving me crazy. Like, just because I say that I would like a very the lightest possible pressure to please maybe log in today or this month, that doesn't mean I want to go full balls to the wall, Shadowlands, renown grinds. I don't want that. No one wants that. No one's asking for that. So stop saying that. What we are saying is that we want to play together. We want to feel like the game is an exciting place to be, at least sometimes, at least for maybe 1-2 weeks after the major patch came out. Okay? I don't want to see people falling off and saying they're bored like a week after patch. This is not normal. Okay, I've been around playing this game for long enough to know what's normal and what isn't, and this isn't. I'm seeing really unhealthy signs right now, and I think this lack of attention to the game from the devs, that's really what it seems like. It seems like laziness, and this hesitation to criticize the game at all on behalf of the player base is going to kill the game eventually. Now, I said I don't want to be a doomer, and I don't think the game is dying, but these are things that we need to nip in the bud before they get out of hand. You need to be able to admit whenever the content itself is just worse. It's that simple. We're not comfortable with that in this community because usually every expansion is like the goose laying the golden egg. It's usually pretty damn good. And I'm willing to accept that it's impossible for any game to keep your attention nonstop all the time. That's not what we're asking for either. But what I do want is to not see most of my friends say things like, well, I guess I'll just come back in Dawn Trail. Now, some people are saying, oh, well, it's just because they were so busy working on an FF16 that they had to cut some corners here. I don't know if that's true, and frankly, I don't care. Because the fact is, a lot of people are saying it. And if a lot of people feel that way, then it's unacceptable. Maybe Yoshi P's attention has been divided. I mean, he is on the board of directors. He tried to get off it, and they won't let him for some reason. He had been working on FF16, and he's trying to do direct producer of FF14. I just feel like it's too much. They're working this man too damn hard. And he needs to stop doing everything else that he's got his attention split on and focus on FF14. Give it his full, undivided attention for Dawn Trail, because I don't ever want to hear anybody saying again, making excuses for them as to why the content seems worse this time around. The main point I hope I can really get across to you in this video is that this isn't black and white. It shouldn't be a choice between so much pressure to log in that there's like FOMO even. You have to log in right now or you're missing out. There's somewhere better to be between that and we're not asking you to do anything. So why do you care? I guess you need to think of your own reason to care. And most people don't, because they're constantly being barraged on all sides by a million other games that are working very hard to give them lots of reasons to care about logging into those other games. And people have a limited amount of time. And I'm sorry to say, but FFXIV needs to fight a little harder for people's time and not take it for granted that people will just always come back and always play. And like, yes, maybe they will for the expansions, but what about the rest of the time? One thing I would say also as another little addendum, DSR was probably the best experience I've ever had in gaming. Clearing DSR, the ultimate raid that came out in Endwalker, was the most fun I've ever had in a game, period. It was phenomenal. It showed me just how amazing battle content in FFXIV can be. It showed me that the game can be so thrilling and so engaging and so exciting when the battle content is designed around what you need to do and keeps you like invested and engaged and like your choices matter. And that was so incredible for me. And so I know how good the game can be. And maybe because of that experience, I continue to set a very high standard for it, and I want them to do the same. Now, that is not actually all I have to say about this topic, but the next part of this discussion is about the casual experience, and that's going to be my next video, because what I've noticed seems like some people like to say, oh, well, it's all for the casuals. They're just dumbing down the game for the casuals. And I got news for you. The casual experience is really suffering as well. And so I'm going to be talking about that in the next video. And I know some of y'all are not going to be happy that I made a negative video or critical video. But the next one is also going to be pointing out things that could be improved. But I really hope that you can get real comfortable real fast with constructive criticism of the game. We need this. We all need to get real cool about it real quick if we want this game to really thrive, because we need to hear from all sides. We need to hear from all perspectives. And I can hear the canary in the coal mine is what I'm saying. And I want positive change. And so we're never going to get that if we just plug our ears and close our eyes and act like, oh, everything's perfect all the time. That's stupid. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Please tell me about your thoughts on the Endwalker patches. Have you been spending this time putting 200 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 like I have and so many other people have? Is there like, what other games are you playing? Or maybe you're still going through the story, or maybe you have found things to do in the game. You've created your own self-directed goals that have kept you entertained. If so, please let me know all about that in the comment section down below. Again, I want to reiterate that many people are having fun with the expansion. It's not like the worst game ever. It's not like it's horrible now. I would never say that, and I don't believe that. There have been good things. But FXIV is a game that has set a very high bar across all of its expansions. And I've been playing for a long time, keeping up to date with every story, every major patch. And this one has felt different. Okay, it's felt worse, frankly. So yeah. Thanks again for watching. If you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow warriors of light. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.